Welcome back to the Photographer's Dining Table. I'm Doug King, and this is my dining table where I like to get together with friends and, over a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, discuss things photographic. Today I'm going to talk about the Arca Swiss standard, which is revolutionising the way that we attach our cameras to our tripods. It used to be that every tripod manufacturer had a proprietary quick release plate. This meant that if you had more than one manufacturer of tripod, or you wanted to swap different bits of equipment onto your tripod, you often had to unscrew the quick release plate and attach it to something else, which of course defeats the entire object of having a quick release plate. The Arca Swiss standard, however, is becoming widely adopted across a wide range of manufacturers, and this means that, on the whole, plates from one manufacturer are compatible with clamps and tripod heads from a different manufacturer. So the whole system, you can build a whole system which is genuinely interchangeable and therefore serves the purpose of being quick release. Arca Swiss themselves are manufacturers of top-end large format view cameras, and they developed the clamping system as a way of putting together the modular components of their really large cameras on a rail-based system. This is not an Arca Swiss rail. Trust me, I can't afford one of those things. It's just a generic rail, but it shows you the principles. The rail itself is wide and flat, and it's got dovetails cut down both sides, onto which you can clamp a corresponding dovetail-shaped clamp. When you put a clamp and a rail together, you end up with a very solid friction-based fixing, which is not subject to any rotation. The clamps themselves usually fit onto a tripod head with anti-rotation pins, and then it's just a question of finding a way of stopping your piece of equipment on top, the camera or the lens, from rotating around the tripod socket. So you could, of course, simply buy a generic quick release plate which screws onto the tripod socket, but this isn't going to do anything to resist rotation. The game changer came when other manufacturers, tripod manufacturers such as Really Right Stuff and Kirk, started to develop contoured, bespoke base plates that fit onto your equipment, and even though they only fix with the single tripod screw socket, these will resist rotation by hugging the body of whatever it is that you're attaching them to. They moved on, and we have lens plate adapters. This is a Really Right Stuff lens plate adapter, which simply screws again into the tripod socket, but has a little lip on the rear edge that prevents rotation against the manufacturer's tripod foot. Alternatively, some tripod collars these days come with detachable feet, and you can buy an entire replacement foot which is Arca Swiss compatible, and this is a Kirk foot for 100-400. Now you'll notice that the lens plates that I've shown you have, in fact some of the other plates I've shown you, have got these safety pins in the bottom. This is so that if you mount a heavy lens onto a monopod or tripod head, you may want to adjust horizontally, but to make sure that your entire expensive kit doesn't go accidentally crashing to the ground, those pins prevent the lens or your kit from sliding horizontally out of the head while it's only partially undone. Beware though, of course, these pins do project from the bottom of the plate, and one of the advantages, of course, with having a tripod foot on your lens is that you ought to be able to rest it horizontally at the balance point, and you can't do that if there are pins projecting from the bottom. So very often nearly always I remove the pins from the feet that I attach to my lenses in order to allow them to sit flat at the balance point, and then I can stabilize that for a shot without having a tripod if I've got a flat surface that I can use. So use the safety pins with caution depending on your style of shooting. So that covers most of the ways of attaching a camera or a lens to an Arca Swiss compatible head, but for me the real game changer is with an L bracket. The Arca Swiss rails are wide enough to create stiffness, allowing you to fabricate more complex fixings such as this. This is a Kirk L bracket for my 5D Mark IV. You can see that it's body contoured to fit snugly and hug the camera base in order to avoid rotation, and it's got two dovetail rails, one on the base and one on the side. If I mate it up to the camera body, it just pops onto place on the base, and you can see already that there's very little rotation even before I've tightened it up as a result of the snug fit to the body contours. Let's just spin up this fixing screw, and you there have a very stiff and resistant fixing both on the body, on the base and on the side of the body. Now the L plate really comes into its own when you want to recompose a shot. If I just pop this onto a tripod head for a moment, I use screw fixings for all of my clamps. You can get them with a quick release lever, but I'm a cautious type. I like to know that my camera equipment is very firmly fixed to my tripod head, so I like to be able to do up a screw and feel the resistance and knowing that that's now firmly fixed. Anyway, back to the L plate. So if I have composed a shot and I'm happy with everything, with the exposure, with the focus, with the position of my graduated filters across the front of the lens, but I want to try a vertical composition. If I didn't have an L plate, I would now be forced to either use the drop notches in the bullhead or to use some other form of rotation in a different kind of tripod head to rotate that whole assembly sideways in order to get the vertical orientation. Now, not only does that mean that you're moving the centre of mass of your camera away from the centre line of stability of your tripod, making the whole thing much more wobbly, but it also means that you're subtly changing your composition by moving the optical axis sideways and down relative to your original composition. With the L plate, I can simply spin the camera on the tripod head. So now I've got a vertical aspect, but I've still got exactly the same composition and the same optical axis that I started with. Everything remains balanced, and all I need to do is rotate my filter holder in order to orientate my graduated filters for the horizon. So there you have it, the Arca Swiss dovetail rail and clamp, an excellent way of not only being able to work flexibly with a single tripod and head, but also allowing you to attach a very wide range of camera bodies and lenses to a very wide range of tripods using a consistent technique. Thank you, and I shall see you again sometime over the photographer's dinner table.